Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics. Hello, mate. Sorry to disturb you. Do you remember me? Over here.
Sorry, mate. How you doing, mate? All right.
You're right. You look a bit preoccupied, Sam. Sorry.
No, I'm all right. Sorry, I was just looking at. So that's my laptop over there. I'm
right.
Literally this second, I've just got an email telling me that I didn't get a job that I quite wanted. Which is, yeah, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth because I've been waiting for a while, and I thought, but I'm fine, of course. But I guess this is a proper insight into the world of an actor, I guess. Like our viewers and listeners are getting it firsthand because it's literally just popped in.
It's just dropped in your box. It's, I mean, it's a bugger, isn't it? Because no matter how long you wait and how long you talk yourself round either way, good news, no news is good news, bad, blah blah blah. It's always a kick in the teeth, isn't it? It's always a bit, and we've said about it in the past. The knocks are part of the job. But no one likes rejection, and it still hits home a little bit, doesn't it? It's still a pain.
It's a sign that you care, isn't it? When you don't get something and it bothers you. If you get a rejection or a thanks but no thanks email, and you go, well, then maybe you never really wanted it that much anyway, or maybe there's another reason that it's not right, and there'll be a reason that I haven't got this. Like something else will come up in its place, and everything will be sort of hunky dory again. But yeah, that initial kind of
yeah, I know. I was going to say one door closes, another one opens. It is another day. You've got your health. You've got me with you, mate. I'll cheer you up.
I've got a pint.
Oh, you got a pint. Well, I've got strong coffee. Here's to you, mate.
Cheers to you, and here's to whatever that door
comes next.
About to open for me.
Absolutely.
So, cheers, everyone. Right. Hello, by the way. Just nattering away.
Hello, everyone. And
go on.
To cheer you up even more, we've got a guest with us today.
We have got a guest with us today, and he's a good bloke. He's a really good bloke. A friend of mine. I haven't worked with him for a little while, but absolute pleasure to work with him. And it's going to be an absolute pleasure chatting to him now. I think. He's got yet again, Drew. We've managed to find another little area of the industry that we're going to delve into and explore with him.
Yeah,
because he. Again, is a specialist in something that perhaps we haven't really discussed a great deal previously. So I'm really excited about this.
It's good. It's going to be good. It's going to be good fun. Yeah. And as you say, lovely bloke.
Oh, yeah. And, well, we're about to meet said lovely bloke now because he's here.
Should we do it?
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll bring him in. And there he is, the incredible talent that is Mr. Tom Levermore. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hello, gentlemen. Very well.
Good morning, Tom. Nice to see you, mate. Look at that. He's getting the beverage in. I'm going to join you. There we go.
Well,
absolutely. I like that much.
I'm feeling let down. You two on the I was going to say hard stuff. I can't describe beer as hard stuff. That's really not. No.
The Earl Grey. The Earl Grey.
On the
Earl Grey. Earl Grey. No milk. I hope no milk, Tom. No milk.
I did go for a drop of milk, but yeah, normally.
Ooh.
Yeah, but no.
And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was the entertaining discussion about Earl Grey. We hope you've liked tuning into this. No. So, as said, we are incredibly lucky to be joined by the fantastic Mr. Tom Levermore, a man who I've had the pleasure of sharing a stage with on a couple of occasions, but actually is here to talk a little bit more about some other slightly more aggressive parts of the performance industry, I'm going to say. But rather than jumping straight into that, what we like to do is obviously get you to give a little bit of an explanation to all our lovely listeners and viewers, and to Drew, who's not had the pleasure of meeting you before. So, Tom, the floor is yours. Please tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Thank you very much. Hello. I'm Tom. Hello, Drew. Good to meet you, bud.
And you, buddy?
Yeah, man. I'm Tom Levermore. I'm an actor and fight director and combat specialist. So it's very much in the world of stunts, but not at the same time. It's certainly not a stuntman, but I am a combat specialist. So that's weaponry, it's unarmed, it's martial arts. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's tied very much into things like Shakespeare. So I've had a very classical training also. So with things like Shakespeare, inevitably someone is going to get quite pissed off that, you know, you've swindled my girl from me, you've stolen my kingdom. So inevitably they're probably going to draw a sword at some point. So that's kind of my wheelhouse for sure.
Nice stuff. Nice stuff. You say you had a classical training. Is that drama school training, and you've sort of like spun out from there, Tom?
Yeah, pretty much. So I went to two drama schools. I went to Lambda and East 15. But I'd been trying to hone the sort of side of stage combat sort of side of things. Trying to hone that for loads of years. In conjunction with that, also with that training. So So it's a new thing for me for sure. Going into a bit more of like that classical sort of side of things, especially on stage. But that's a nice prospect as well. It's a nice adventure.
Nice.
So you obviously mentioned there Shakespeare. We know that actually combat plays a big part in a lot of stuff like that because it is more dated. So we live in a modern world where everything is operated remotely and we don't ever see the conflict in the same way. But Shakespeare has huge impact when it comes to battles and all kinds of weaponry. Has your training, or has the industry as a whole, has it given you this incredible sort of spread of different weaponry through the ages? So do you have to sort of learn about new things as you go along?
Yeah, absolutely. Every day's a learning day for sure, especially when you're dealing with weaponry. Because us as humans, we've had a very long time at honing the perfect killing weapon, right? So you do. It's broad for sure. It does tend to, a lot of the work that I end up coming into is more found object. So more like a bar fight that someone stumbles onto the bar, grabs a bottle and smashes it over another person's head. It's more like brawly like that of late. But I've also worked a lot at the Royal Opera House and a lot on that sort of side of things historically. That's what an experience too. You really do. Yeah, one moment you're like Italian Renaissance guard. The next, you're like some mad barbarian just jumping off a ship. So it does. It goes here and there.
I mean you've worked on stage and on film, and I mean I suppose I mean you with stage. You know, if you're doing a fight during a show, you know, you've got one shot at it, haven't you? You've got to be incredibly well rehearsed. But I mean, if you're shooting, I mean, not that you want to get it wrong, but you do have the opportunity to, you know, obviously because if you're shooting with multiple cameras or whatever, to go through a fight and perfect it. Do you approach the two differently, or as a choreographer or whatever when you're setting something up? Is it pretty much the same approach?
In terms of choreography, I like to very much have it the same. The only difference is you're incorporating camera to that.
Yeah.
So if I'm working with cam ops that are quite quick on their feet, quite like they've got some good movement to them, then I'll have them with me as the choreography's getting set up. So very much they have a nice sense of the topography of the fight to know to get out of the way when that axe is coming this way and they're standing here, like know to get out of the way before they get a nasty little smack. But in terms of the phrases of choreography themselves, I very much like to have them the same medium. It's like the best fights in that you've ever seen for camera, and normally they tend to be long shots. Like if you think of something like Old Boy, very much it's set like a 2D, like on a 2D sort of platforming stage, like you play Mario, for instance, and the camera's tracking along with the action. So, but it feels like one sequence. It is one sequence. Another example is Daredevil, Daredevil Netflix series.
Yeah.
The amazing hallway fight in that is it's making you feel like it is one take. It is really happening in front of you. You know, so there's a beautiful crossover there. when you split those mediums. And it's quite a beautiful thing, to be honest.
Nice. Would you say one is, and this is an awful question to ask really, but would you say one is safer than the other? Because as Drew said, when you're on stage, you've got one chance to make it right, and it is very much live action. With film, do you, because you have the facility perhaps these days for special effects and for multiple angles, does it make it a slightly safer way of going about fight choreography?
Swings and roundabouts, really, because the director's vision or scope could be, it's an apocalyptic wasteland sort of film or whatever, and there's meteors coming down. So in terms of the stunts, yeah, all right, that's going to be CGI'd in, but now I've got to use wires to fling people out of the way of cars and stuff to create that disaster. But with stage, very much you can do that with lights, you can do that with sound, you can do it with the actors on stage, yes, but it just doesn't have the same scope to invite that risk in sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, absolutely. The bigger the production, yes, absolutely, that risk comes in and it starts it starts getting interesting. But for the most part, the understanding of scope is why those limitations are put in place, because the practice should be the same. The practice really is the same. If you've learned one way specifically, like I learned my specific brand of stage combat from the institutes that I went to, but another person's going to have a different take on the whole system because they've come from a different institute, perhaps.
Interesting. Do you have? I mean, do you have a dreams fight sequence? Is there something you say, if I could just do that? Is there something in your head you go, yeah, I want to do that. I'm just waiting for the opportunity to do,
I very much, have you gents seen Children of Men? 2005 film, Clive Owen.
I haven't, no.
Yeah, it's amazing film, really, really interesting film. Bit of a slow burn, but it's bloody worth it. But within it, there's very much, the actions culminated to Clive Owen's in this war zone, and there's tanks shelling buildings that civilians are inside, and it's a one shot with the camera following Clive as he's going around all the rooms and darting across the street. It gives you sort of the same sort of vibes as Enemy at the Gates or Private Ryan. That sort of war, setting, but not necessarily in a war. It's just like you are there with the action as walls are just getting blown out, and I very much want to work with those practical effects to really sell the horror of things. I think we lean towards CGI a hell of a lot too much, too often, because it's the easier fix sometimes, or like we were saying just now. I mean, the element of risk goes down significantly when you're having to use practical stuff happening right there.
Yeah,
you have to blow that bloke in two. It's sometimes it's a bit unfortunate, especially if you're trying to save on hiring costs. It's interesting for sure. I'd like the opportunity to do a lot of things, but that you could say that of anything in the world. I'd like some opportunities.
Yeah, that's true. It's very easy to spend money, isn't it? In your mind.
When you've got it, yeah, too right.
It's our industry, isn't it? There are always going to be those wonderful things you want to be a part of or want to do, because far aside from just being a fight choreographer, of course I don't mean just in a negative way, but you are also an actor, a singer, a performer, a writer, and there will always be things in each different discipline that you go, cool, that's like almost a goal, or like that's the pinnacle. That's something that if I can do that, I can kind of go, yeah, do you know what? I've not hit my peak, but I've made it to a point where I go, wow, what am I doing? Like this is my job, sort of thing.
It's achieving satisfaction. It's really that's why we're doing it. It's vocational. This isn't fun half the time, but it's satisfying majority of the time when you actually get your foot in that door.
Yeah, but any job you do bits that you don't enjoy as much because they are part of the work and they're building towards that big end goal or that next promotional, that next sort of moment that you want to achieve. How do you find? Obviously, your specialty is fight choreography and working with weaponry and things like that. Do you try and push towards doing as much of that work as possible and then fill gaps with other bits, or do you like to try and keep the variety as much as possible?
It's a good question. It's tough because a lot of the stuff that I get into, inevitably combat's down the line there somewhere. I mean, because the philosophy behind it is very much it is dance, it is choreography, right? It's not. It's all premeditated. None of it is on the fly. If it starts to go on the fly, it starts getting dangerous. So it's very much there is like movement principles very much fundamental movement principles are very much woven into stage combat. So it's interesting to sort of see that when you go into an acting job and how much movement is really required to sell a character. For instance, a hunchback or something. You're not going to walk in day one have that within your body. You have to. There's definitely going to have to be steps put in place to do that physically with your body, and then you find the character within that also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did Sam. I did a play last year, Coventry Belgrade, called "Fighting Irish" about boxing, the boxing scene in Coventry. I played a boxing trainer, and there was a couple of lads. Well, three of the lads were boxers. They played real life boxers. They had been boxers, and we were conditioned from day one. We used to do it on your toes. We did with our warm up for half an hour, and we never stopped moving. We were never on our toes. We never got flat footed. We all became incredibly fit. But it was interesting after a couple of weeks, everyone's movement around the room changed because we were all. Every character was combative in one way. They were either aggressive physically, verbally, or they were literally, with these big choreographed fight scenes, boxing matches that we had.
Yeah,
and we all adopted this. It was very easy for everyone. Everyone was very light on their feet. Everyone was springing around. It was like we were once in the rehearsal room. We were all boxers. It was incredible, and both the writer and the director and the choreographer and our movement choreographer as well. It was very interesting because they went, "You have all changed in 2 weeks. You have all physically changed," and everybody. When there was a discipline to the movement, discipline to the fight sequences. When anybody stepped in the ring, and we had a marked out ring because the whole play took place in the ring. When anybody stepped in there for any reason, even if it was just acting, everybody calmed down. There was no talking. It became a real and when we had a couple of guys come in from the local boxing club and looked over to see how realistic we were. They all went, "You guys are so disciplined." He said, "It is just like a gym, how you pull back." And it took a long time. It very quickly happened, but it took a long time to forget that. And that discipline, it was fascinating to watch how, as you say, a discipline, and we were all strictly choreographed. Everything was heavily choreographed, but it changed our movement and our mental way of being. It was fascinating to watch, we didn't know we'd done it.
That's the element of play. That's the thing that all of drama school really does beat into you and make you do, is that element of play. Why it's called a play, we're not
exactly.
We are imbuing the role, right? So it's very much those breakthrough moments are literally that is the epitome of the work. It really is. That is the satisfaction that you have to find, is when you've dug deep to create that character, and now you planted the seed, and now those seeds are now that is fruit, for sure.
I guess it makes you even more aware in a way of, as you say, how almost dance-based a lot of theatre is, and what you're talking about there, Drew, the physicality of things. You can compare that with something like, I don't know, mainstream wrestling, which is all about very, very athletic sports people performing highly choreographed moves, and I'm ruining wrestling for those out there that think it's real. Sorry. There is, of course, real wrestling in Olympics and sport and things like that, but when we're talking about sort of mainstream TV wrestling, the big American branded stuff, it's so heavily choreographed in order to make something that looks incredibly dangerous or incredibly physical not dangerous in any way, or very minimal danger. I mean, if someone with a physique like any of ours probably wouldn't be able to keep up with the guys who are big, muscle bound and doing the levels of 10-15 hours training a day or whatever they do. But it's all about minimizing that risk while still creating a visual spectacle, and that floats down through film, through TV, through theatre, whether it's something that's big and has enormous audiences or is actually quite a small, intimate performance. You combine dance, you combine the safety of a choreographed fight to create these storylines, and that is what you're doing through the movement. You're telling that story even further, which is I guess it must be quite a rewarding thing to have that creative control and that creativity as a fight director or a fight choreographer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, for sure. It's like recently, so my most recent credit as a fight director was for Gilbreeze Theatre Company. It was a production of Lady Killers, and I know I heard that you're in one in Brighton, is it?
I start next week. Yeah.
That's hilarious. But it's the thing of weaving. So ultimately, like through the fights, they're dark. Like within the writing, you just look at the text and you see how dark they are.
Yeah.
It's all dressed within a farce. So it's hard hard. It's an interesting challenge to put those two things together. Very much the juxtaposition of having these dark, nasty moments dressed up with lines around them that suggest otherwise. It's I love that process. Getting into trouble. That's the thing. Also, is very much get your, like when I'm choreographing, get my characters, these actors, get them into as much trouble as possible, because as an actor, you want to work and learn to get out of that trouble.
Yeah.
So it's the best thing ever, for sure.
Yeah. Set up a problem and then solve it.
Solve it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, I mean, we know you're a multifaceted performer and creative. We know you've got as a writer, you've got a play coming up at the Camden Festival later. Just after summer. Is it August time? The Camden Festival? I can't remember when it runs.
31st of July. Festival. So it's opening night of the Fringe.
Fantastic. Tell us more. Let's move away from hitting people and let's put pen on paper for a minute and then let's tease out the gentler, more cerebral Tom.
Oh God, you don't want him coming out. That's bad news. So yeah, it's the third play I have completed to its fruition, and the first one put to stage by my theatre company, me and my co-artistic director, Betsy Chadwick-Jones. It's our first, we're fledgling theatre company, and that's our first foray into the world. We very much had plans previously to get shows off the ground, but then this little old thing called coronavirus sort of swept in, and
we are familiar with it. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. I thought it had been in the news. So yeah, that swept in and screwed that one up. So it's the way it is. So it's been on hiatus for a little bit. But this new play, it's a two-hander. It's a dark comedy. It's called Heretic, Gallows, and yeah, it's about modern Britain, what's happening in the cities of Britain, and comes out soon, and looking forward to it for sure. It's my first sort of co-direction piece as well. Certainly the first thing I've written that's really like putting a stamp out there, trying to really do this thing. And it's inspired more writing as well. So I got my first book out. Now I've got my first play out. I'm writing the sequel to the book, and I'm also writing a sequel to this play also.
Brilliant.
Big aim that I'd like to have a trilogy of plays commissioned within the next couple of years, whatever, and have like a view on a Britain that's just highlighting what are the things that is going on in our country.
Nice.
What venue are you at? So we'll give you a huge plug at the end, but
It's the Etcetera Theatre,
Camden
High Street.
Amazing. And you mentioned there about the other side of writing your book. That's a little bit away from everything else. So again, another sort of direction you've gone in. Tell us more about the book, because I find that incredible.
So it's a sci-fi fantasy novel. I've always had a massive soft spot for science fiction. It's the king of the genres. It's very much styled on films like Event Horizon. That dark, grittier sort of side of existence, and very much the unknown of space. So we're probably all aware of, if you're into gaming, for sure, you're probably all aware of battle royales. So it's a battle royale in a book. It's very much a death match, a fight to the death on a distant exoplanet. Set in the future, but follows three titular protagonists. One is a woman from our time, from 2020. Another is an Anglo-Saxon, a man at arms Anglo-Saxon who's been stolen from his time and brought to the future, much like the lady from our present as well. And then there is the anchor point of the story really is a man named Trisk, who is from the future. So it very much has like three different sort of perspectives on this event happening to all of them. Which is, like I said earlier, get them into trouble, because it's better for them to get out.
So what you've done there is create an opportunity for yourself, hopefully down the line, to direct a film version of your own writing, and it's included 3 different ages of combat. Is essentially what you've created there. So you've taken all your many skills, rolled them into a ball together, and gone, right, as soon as someone reads this, picks it up and funds it, I'm back in there. I can have someone swinging an axe, someone using a drone, and someone using laser eyesight or something. I'm obviously guessing at different levels of right,
all 3.
Well, there we go. Look at that. I've nailed it somehow.
Brilliant.
But yeah, so I guess that's a real advert for what a lot of us try and do in the industry, is combining knowledge and the want to progress. So I would imagine you didn't set out to be a writer, because your training doesn't necessarily reflect that in essence, but it's a way of creating further work. It's a way of allowing those creative juices to flow, and also to take on some of the other expertise that you've built up, be that your main direction or sort of slight offshoots, but you brought it all together there. Is it almost a way of pushing yourself further in things that you don't yet have the opportunity to necessarily physically do, but by writing you give those opportunities in theory, maybe?
I certainly see it with most endeavors that I undertake. I do see it as writing checks my future self cashes. So it's not a check for me, it's a check for him later on. He's going to like it.
No,
but it's very much we're storytellers. As humans, we're storytellers, right? You learn from a story from that person. It gets passed on. Chinese whispers and whatnot. Knock on. So it's like with everything, you're always telling stories. So there should be something available. Yeah,
it's interesting. I was listening to a documentary on the radio the other day about storytelling and how storytelling came about. It's like, well, the first thing was that people went, oh, there's a herd of woolly mammoths over there, we need to eat, let's go and kill them, and passing on information. But the most fun part then was, as you're eating the woolly mammoth, was then telling stories about how the hunt went, how that went. But the most important, the most interesting person was the person in the room who was lying a little bit, going, yeah, well, I took the mammoth down with only one spear, and and tomorrow this is going to happen. This is going to suddenly, and then out of there we started to tell. I mean, that's a very basic look, but that's we started telling stories, but we need them because they then became the most interesting person in the room, He's not the person telling the truth, but the person telling the stories and entertaining and making our lives different and better for that information. And I think it. And then you mentioned earlier about play, Tom. Is saying we must keep playing. I think if we ever lose that, the joy of telling a story and the joy of playing, I think then as human beings we're a lot less. But certainly as creatives in our industry, we're a lot. We're a lot less skilled. But I think as human beings, we need storytelling. We need, and never more so when we're all stuck in lockdown. I'm not going to harp on about it because we mentioned it a lot, Sam and I. But God, did we need Netflix and books and whatever, streaming, DVDs, anything. We were watching anything to soak our minds up. So more than ever, we need that. And I think that's the joy of what we do, is because you put a smile on someone's face, or you move them, or like you say, you challenge yourself and go, I need to tell that story in whichever way possible, whether I write it down, it is storytelling. I think it's so important, I
think we're always growing as well. Like your discipline expands with every thing you do. I can't remember the exact quote on it or whatever, but it was very much like, if you practice something for 30 minutes a day, and consistently, you gain a mastery of it in no time flat. Like obviously it takes a grind. It's obviously a grind, but if you're doing it and that person isn't, it's not like you have a leg up unconsciously. And if you find something that you actually enjoy doing, then more power, as far as I'm aware. It's very much, it's if you're upgrading yourself every time, you're giving joy whilst you're doing it, then I think that's your purpose.
Right.
Yeah, we are storytellers, whether that be in whatever medium we choose at that time, whether it is choreographing something, whether it is dancing, whether it's writing, whether it's acting something out. And even small things, if you look at things like doing role play exercises where we work with businesses and give opportunities for trainee staff or people to learn by being a different character, all those things are helping progression in some way or another.
Definitely.
I think you take a skill and you can apply it to something else, or you take some knowledge and you apply it to a different scenario. You're always going to broaden that. And as you were saying, Drew, never had we needed this industry more than when the unwelcome guest was with us, and when no one was able to go anywhere or do anything. And that's why we were born out of that, the frustration that actually it wasn't necessarily reflected by government, that there was this huge necessity for performance or for essentially storytelling. And that's something that got people through. But that sort of brings me back around to saying you've obviously do your storytelling, Tom, through many different mediums. We shared a stage together, performed a musical, which was a brilliant experience. And you fabulous voice, if I may say. Not something that I think you use as often perhaps as other skills, but you certainly should. But is there, and I'm coming around to a question eventually, I promise. Is there a way that you see of bringing all your skills together, or is there sort of an end goal where you see this big element and you go, that's the main target because it would allow me to do everything?
Well, that's the thing. It's I certainly nail my colours to my mast quite often, but it's hard because I can see like a pathway, definitely a pathway that I'd be happy ending up with, but achieving it is very blurry. It's hard, but that's what the grind is. You will find it. If I don't make it as an actor, maybe I do make it as a writer, maybe I do make it as a playwright, maybe I do make it as a choreographer, maybe I do make it as in my civvy job as a barman. Maybe one discipline is got to happen. And I hark back to a mentor of mine. Hark back to his words. Very interesting words for sure. It's the industry is spinning plates. You're in a circus, right? And you've got a plate here. This one's spinning. This one's going. But this plate that you set up earlier is now starting to wobble and it's starting to drop down. So you've got to rush over here quick. Start spinning that plate. Oh wait, that one's going down again. It's very much a juggling act in that respect. You do have to be a master of all discipline to really get halfway there.
Yeah.
It's graft. It's absolute graft. And during the event that shall not be named, very much the focus on the arts as a secondary is I stood with it. In fairness, I did, because I was very people are dying. If it is as bad as it is, if it is what it is, then the arts should be secondary. But then harking back to your points as well, gents, very much you would have gone stir crazy if you didn't have entertainment, wouldn't you? So it's very much like it's that's a tricky one to weigh up. And it was very much during the pandemic, I stopped acting pretty much altogether and started working at Tesco's. I was working at Tesco. I was doing that job and being sort of told, "Oh, you're a key worker and everything. You're doing a really good job." It was hollow. It was absolutely bloody hollow, because I was just like, "Yeah, I'm helping out. I'm doing my bit. I'm earning money, is what I'm doing in reality. Like I earn money or stay at home." So it was a bloody tough one, but I'm glad that chapter is closed. I'm glad it. The thing is, I can't fault coronavirus in its entirety of what it is. Obviously, it was shit time for people. People died. Restrictions were what they were. Government lockdown, what they were. But I wouldn't have started writing without it. I guarantee you that I wouldn't have started writing without it. So I look back on it fondly because it gave me that time to focus on what do I want. I wasn't happy necessarily within the industry. I wasn't getting on in the industry. I wasn't, maybe I wasn't doing so well, but it gave me focus to go, no, I can do something right now to help me later on. And that's where that philosophy of writing checks for your future self to cash came from.
I like that. I like that analogy of writing yourself a future check. That's brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Now, talking of future, we don't have much future left in this podcast today. We've got a few minutes left. And as always, that was a really clunky segue, but I tried it. Yeah, never mind. Well, we've got a couple of minutes left, Tom, before we sadly have to say goodbye. As always, you're sat there in the guest chair. Do you have an anecdote to leave us with? Excuse me.
Yeah. So right, I do a lot of essay work. And you see a lot of celebrities there. You see a lot of A-listers, and it's always weird. Etiquette is always a strange thing. I was thinking it to my partner earlier. Very much concluded she's in the business also. She's my partner. And yeah, we both sort of concluded, bloody hell, people are very strange. So for anyone that doesn't particularly know, essay means extra. It's very much etiquette of what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. Say you've got I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger is standing over there. What you don't do is immediately when it's on set, it's everyone's tense, everyone's ready. Arnie's flexing, we're ready to go. What you don't do is go straight over and go, Arnie, how you doing, mate? Good to see you. Shake his hand. I loved you in Predator. You were fucking awesome, mate. It's what you don't do. People, but I had that sort of exact thing. I can't name the actor, but I very much had that exact same thing of someone very much like just absolute foot in the mouth. Awful moment. I think the ground did open up and swallow him. I can't quite remember. It was all a bit of a blur. But yeah, weird one. The other one as well is people overselling their experience in terms of fighting. So I've been on a lot of sets where it's very similar to SPAC work. It's expected there's going to be a bit of fighting, and immediately you get the person big balls Malone comes in. It's very much, I've done loads of this. I'm really good. I'm going to do this, and I had this occasion with a lady who was very much of that ilk of like, I can do this. I did a course 12 years ago. It's fine. I'm ready to go. I'm limber. And move that I needed a puncher. And she was like, "Oh no, I needed to punch her. She recovered. Then she kneed me in the face. It was something as simple as that." She was very. I set up here. I'm ready to go, and she's like, "Oh God, don't hit me in the face. Like, don't worry." And then my the choreographer I work with, like called Joe Golby, the man, the myth, and the legend. He very much was like, "Don't worry, Tom's actually quite good at this. I think you'll be fine." Anyway, I do the punch absolutely fine, and then so I'm like, right, okay, here we go then. So I've done the punch. It comes round, and she immediately knees me in the face. And this is like, luckily I've got like this mask on, but it very much, yeah, just smacks me clean in the face. And I'm just like, oh, I'm glad we were worried about your safety. It's like, I'm very, very happy for that. My nose might need a bit of readjustment, but it's all right. I'll still be as ugly as before.
Tom, it's okay, mate. We can tell you honestly that it has not stunted your beauty, despite being kneed in the face by an overzealous scene partner, shall we call her? We won't.
Oh, I'm zealous, all right.
But no, and actually, I've done a little bit of essay work, and Drew, you've done bits over time as well, and yeah, you do come across these characters that perhaps they like to inflate their part, shall we say? They do like to. You've only got to do a quick Google, actually, and there are some brilliant forums about people working as extras. That there's an infamous one of a guy sweeping with a broom, but the broom doesn't actually touch the floor, or the guy who's been told type on the computer and his hands are hovering and it cuts away. And you can there's loads of them. It's worth checking out. But
yeah,
it's quite an entertaining business to be in, even that small area of it, doing essay work and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tom, mate, it has been such a pleasure catching up. I mean, I haven't seen you for a little while. It's so nice to chat again. But more importantly, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us about your intricate little part of the business, or the many parts that you are involved in, probably, I should say more accurately. It has been completely fascinating. And
absolutely.
What an honour to have you on, mate. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and just before you go, Tom, plug for Heretic Gallows. When and where?
Heretic Gallows, 31st of July, 1st of August at the Etcetera Theatre. Part of the Camden Festival. It's kicking it off, baby.
There we go. Stuff. So make sure you get yourselves down to watch Tom's incredible writing take to the stage. And yeah, just mate, all the best with everything going on. I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to work together in the near future. Yeah, and if you need anyone to knee you in the face, I'm more than happy to help. Just
the weekends.
Yeah. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, and we'll catch up again soon.
Lovely, mate. Tom. Cheers, mate.
Take care. See you later.
Bye now.
Bye. And again, Sam, another fantastic guest joins Drewling Samantics.
We're so lucky with guests, aren't we? I don't know how we do it, mate. You think at some point we'd exhaust the wonderful talent pool that we've been delving into to pull our guests from. I've gone very poetic. I don't know.
Haven't you just? Yeah.
But no, the fabulous Mr. Tom Levermore, just a very talented but very nice bloke, really.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's no pretension about. I mean, thankfully, lovely. Our guests come on; they all love it so much, and it's like there's no pretension. We just get on with our jobs, and I think we've been really lucky with our guests and the talent that we've met is that they are all just getting on with their jobs. They love it so much to get on with it. There's no bullshit, which is a joy. But with Tom, it's just you just can see he's like, I love the phrase he used. I'm writing myself a check for the future. I think that's a lovely way of putting it. And that looking and challenging and what was he saying? Making problems and solving them. I mean, it's pretty much what the business is about all the time, isn't it? You hit a problem, work through it.
He highlighted, didn't he, that there are some times where you do things that you don't particularly want to do or you're not completely in love with, but that's all part of the process. And
absolutely,
there are always negatives to every job. We might have mentioned a few last week. If you haven't checked it out, go and have a listen. But the passion is the overwhelming thing, and the want to keep doing what we're doing, and particularly with Tom, like he's taken lots of different routes, but they all eventually lead back to the same place, which is telling stories and being a creative, and that's what he loves doing. and that is what he's incredibly good at. And we were incredibly lucky today to be able to have a chat to him just about that. So
long may it continue, mate. Long may it continue.
Yes, indeed. And going forward, you've got the show coming up, which obviously Tom mentioned as well. Little coincidence there, but
it's amazing. I mean, it's a lovely play, and it is an adaptation from the the very popular film. It's Graham Linehan's adaptation. But what a strange thing to have in common. It's very rarely done, or hasn't been done for quite some time, and it crops up twice. I'm having a series of coincidences at the moment. I will explain more at a later date. But it's all very interesting.
Ominous. No, so I wish you all the best for the shows, mate. And
thank you, mate. Thank you, mate. Just no rain. No rain. That's all it is.
Yes, no rain. Thank you. The weather's been a bit all over the place. Obviously, the bank holidays were awful because, well, it's in the rules, isn't it? In the rules,
got to be done, isn't it? Yeah.
Thou shalt not have nice weather on thou's bank holiday, I think is the I may be paraphrasing.
That famous old phrase that just trips off the tongue, mate. Yeah.
But yeah. I'll tell you what, mate. How about we pop back next week and have a bit of a natter, just the two of us. You up for that?
No, I think that'll work for me, mate. That'll work for me. Lovely job. Yeah.
Enjoy your shows, ladies and gents. Thank you as always for joining us and the lovely Tom. And we'll see you next week.
Cheers, everyone. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.